Through 120 here live at Ignite After Dark. How's everyone doing today?
I'm doing great.
Doing great. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. So I've been kind of having a little crazy day the last couple hours. Let's see here. I've got a plumbing issue going on in a rental unit in the state of Texas, so I'm back and forth with the plumber and the tenant. I'm dealing with some tax issues, obviously on the 15th, so talking to the tax guy as well. I got a text message that my nephew's varsity baseball game that I couldn't make because I was teaching this tonight. He hit a three-run homer, and then there's this class. So just very representative of how life goes, right? How, we have our plans and we have our intentions, and then we have life that shows up. And what's really important about that is knowing that life is going to take us in different directions. It's going to take us out of our intentions, out of what we had planned. And when we get out of balance, what we do is most important. Do we let life spiral us downward because of something that came up? Or do we choose to maintain, keep our focus, and spiral upwards? And it's a split decision in the moment, and it's all based on your mindset. And a weak mindset will spiral you down, a strong, focused mindset will spiral you up. So, just a little food for thought as we get into night two. So what I did want to do today, um, because it's 6:05 on the West Coast and 8:05 in the Midwest, I just kind of wanted to have a quick 15-minute recap on what happened last night, get some ahas from you guys, and then I'd like to drop into the chat both a text that I came up with and a quick call script and spend 5, 10, 15 minutes calling and texting our SOI, our database, our sphere of influence, those people who already know, like, and trust us, so we can go ahead and get our feet wet with what this process prospecting actually is. And here's the deal, prospecting, lead generation is one of those things that you can't sit on the side of the pool and have success, right? And you can't do it straddling the deep end, and you can't do it from the kiddie pool. You really got to commit to being all in. And the only way to commit to being all in is just to dive in. So with prospecting, it's the same thing. We get to a point where we have enough knowledge and information. The next step is to get into action. So let's talk about last night. Who's got some ahas for me? What did you guys learn? What stuck out for you? What are your takeaways? What got you excited? What was eye-opening to you? Feel free to drop it in the chat, come off mic, but I'd love to hear some takeaways from you.
Well, Anthony, I just thought it was nice knowing how much business is inside our contacts already, that we don't have to go out and find a bunch of strangers and work with them. That we can work with people we know.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Ryan. Here's the thing. There's always going to be opportunity to go outside, right? There's always going to be opportunity to go fish larger waters, right? Because larger waters are going to contain more opportunity. And yet we oftentimes bypass what is nearby, what is most closest to us, the people who already know, like, and trust us. And here's the thing with a database. We can build it, we can take the time and build it. But if we're not nurturing it, if we're not cultivating it, then we're not going to harvest the bounty from that database. So it's really important to do just that and know that within your database, within your contacts, within your phone, you have opportunity. When you've exhausted all those opportunities, then it's time to seek going outside of that and then saying, okay, what do I need to do? Because at the end of the day, there's two questions we all have to ask ourselves. Either I have a lead generation problem or I have a lead follow-up problem, right? And if you have a lead generation problem, then that means that you don't have enough leads to hit your goals. If you have a lead follow-up problem, then that means I have a plethora of leads. I just have a problem following up with them or following up with them consistently enough to where they can start to bear fruit and convert with them. So, all right, let's see. What else did we get here? Uh, Dijon did his door knocking. All right. Three numbers gained. Awesome. Awesome. Got out there and got it done. I love it. Daily scripts build confidence to conquer most of the fears people have in real estate, right? That's the four C's, Alexis, right? We talk about competence. Competence, knowledge builds confidence. And when we have confidence, then we can go out and we can speak intelligently. And when we can speak intelligently, then we have an opportunity to convey trust and confidence in our communication to the people that are across the other side of the table. And when we can convey trust and confidence, we put people at ease and people feel safe. And when people feel safe, they tend to say yes. That's how we are, that's how people are. So what's important to remember on this specifically in our communications, right? It's not about getting people to say yes to buying a house. It's not about getting people to say yes to getting a contract signed. When we get in front of someone, be it on a call or face to face at the kitchen table, our goal is to have intentional communication in a way that instills trust and confidence in the other person. And when we have done that effectively, the next natural stage is for them to say yes. If we go into a situation with commission breath, right? Sign the contract. I'm desperate for the sale. They can pick up on that, right? Just like animals, just like people can pick up on desperation, our clients can pick up when we're desperate. And when we come from desperation, they can pick up on it and they reject us and our notion. But when we come from a place of value and coming from a place in communication that instills trust and confidence, it allows them to say yes because we create an environment of safety. And this is a little bit off topic, but this is what this is really about. When we can understand it at this level and know that selling is a transfer of energy. That's really all it is. It's a transference of energy from us to the client. And part of that is an energy that allows them to feel safe. Because here's the deal, and you guys want to write this down too. This is one of our bold laws of Keller Williams. Logic makes you think, but emotion makes you act. Logic makes you think, but emotion makes you act. And what I tell people who are about to put their homes on the market, I say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's the deal. No one's going to write an offer on your property unless they come into your home and they have an emotional experience. So the question then becomes, what does that look like? And how are we creating that? Then we can start having conversations about condition, value, location, price, staging. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? What are the sounds that are going on when that person comes through the house, right? Is it a Starbucks experience, right? Is it hitting all of the sensories, right? Are we creating an emotional experience in the presentation of the property? And if we are, great. And if we're not, then we can't expect to have that high of a level of success. All right, Michael says memorize, internalize, personalize. Thank you. When it comes to script and dialogue, that's the most important thing, right? Don't be out there winging it, right? Wing it when you know it inside and out, up and down, back and forth, and can memorize it in your sleep or speak it in your sleep. Someone can wake up at 3 in the morning and say, "What's the expired listing script?" And you can just rattle it off. At that point, then you own it. And when you own it, you make it yours and you can personalize it. but memorize it first so you know it, internalize it so you know it without thinking about it, and then personalize it. And here's the deal with communication and being able to internalize it. When you can internalize what you're going to say, it allows you to participate in active listening. And active listening is when you are paying attention to what the person on the other side of the table is actually saying, as opposed to thinking of what your response is going to be. And one of the best examples of active listening that I always see is during election cycles when we have several primaries or several candidates for a position, and they're all on the stage at the same time, and someone's being asked a question, but they're not being asked a question. They're being asked 4 or 5 questions in one question, and all they're doing is they're just jotting, and they're jotting, and they're jotting, and they're jotting because they know their material and they're formulating their response so they can pay attention to the series of questions that are happening in the moment and then still be able to know what their response is going to be as opposed to listening to just respond. And when you can participate in active listening, you show up differently at an appointment and you show up differently in that you're present, right? And when you're present in life, when you're present at your appointments, when you're present in your key relationships, you just connect at a different level. So that's huge. That is huge. All right, the 4 C's: competence, confidence, contracts, and closings. Yes, Alexis. Dejan says mastering fear. Mastering fear is a lifelong objective, right? Like we never truly do that because it's baked into who we are instinctively. It's part of our primal existence. So without fear, we probably wouldn't survive as a species. So fear is what has kept us alive for the number of years that the Homo sapiens have been roaming this earth and will continue to do so. All right, so great job on that. Just a few things that I wanted to bring up for you guys before we get into tonight's content was just going back to this whole Breakthrough 120. Who remembers what Breakthrough 120 is? What are the numbers behind Breakthrough 120? Specifically, the daily number of contacts, over how long, and for how many days in a week?
I got you, Anthony. I got 10 real estate conversations, 5 days a week for the next 120 days to set you up to net nine agreements.
9 agreements. That's it. And that could be 9 listing agreements. That could be 9 buyer agreements. That could be 4 and 5, or it could be any combination of those. And like I said, you could have three, you could have six, you could have 15. You may not have any. If you have none at the end of 120 days, and yet you have gone through these exercises and you have talked to the number of people for the consistent number of days, you're going to have a bulging pipeline at the least. And that's exciting, right? You're going to be able to look at your database, look at your garden, and say, well, they're not quite ripe yet, but it's full of tomatoes. And it's just a matter of time, just another week in the sun. And then I'll have more tomatoes, I'll have more opportunities than I know what to do with. So, what I wanted to talk about real quickly here is that when with the conversations and the 9 agreements, right? Specifically, the 9 pieces of business is what is known as a lag measure, right? A lag measure. We don't have any control over that. That's the outcome. The conversations are what we call lead measures. And lead measures are what we have control over. So this is all about being process oriented and not being tied to the result. Not being tied to the result of 9 pieces of business or 6 pieces or 4 pieces or 15 pieces of business. That's a lag measure. When we focus on the process, stay committed to the process and focus on the lead measures that impact the lag measures, then we know it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And another thing that we want to know is through this process, what we are installing, right? We are changing our identity. We're creating the identity in that we are someone who has real estate conversations every day. Maybe a two-way text message, maybe a two-way email exchange, maybe a two-way phone communication, maybe a face-to-face conversation. But we have real estate conversations every single day. And here's the deal about having 10 a day. 10 a day, if you can start and get to 10 a day and keep that consistently, then you're winning the game. But here's the thing about consistency. It's not about hitting 10 every single day. It's about showing up and making the effort and being engaged in the process. So being consistent means maybe you have 4 one day, 6 the next, 10 the next, 7, and then 2. Well, guess what? You've still won that week because you've committed to the activity every single day. And when we're consistent, right? When we're consistent, we win, right? The consistent drip of water in the cast iron tub over time will bore a hole through that tub. That is how this works. When we stay consistent in the right activities, it's not a matter of if, it's just a question of when. So the discipline of daily conversations is the muscle that we're really trying to build. We're building the muscle of discipline by having conversations every single day. And we're understanding that the focus of all of this really is in the conversations. If we win the conversation game, we win in real estate. And if we win the conversation game, we have come that much closer to mastering lead generation. And in doing so, we take one step closer to this life by design. But here's what's important to remember in this is that you have to ask yourself, am I committed or am I interested? And here's an example that I like to give you guys all the time. When you get in an elevator and you get in and there's someone else, or you're in the elevator, door opens, someone else gets in, do you look down at your phone or do you look at that individual and say hi and start a conversation? And we've all done both. But the question is, when you're considering what success looks like in this industry and that conversations is the game, when that person steps into the elevator, there is an opportunity for you to say hi, to say hello. Does it lead to a real estate conversation? It may or may not. It's not, hey, how you doing? Want to buy a house? It's not that, but it's creating a habit. It's creating a habit of what do you do unconsciously? What do you do without thinking? Because what you do without thinking is what you tend to do habitually. And here's the thing about having a life by design or about any kind of real change. Nothing in your life is going to change until you change something that you do every single day. And that's what I call a definition of breakthrough, right? So we said like breakthrough is, achieving things that have never been done before. And yet that's all true. And yesterday, several people dropped in the chat different examples of what they believe to be breakthroughs, and they're all correct. But here's the deal. Breakthrough happens when you change what you do every single day. And when you can start to create a habit and a discipline around having real estate conversations every day, that is a breakthrough. And we do that incrementally. We do that progressively. And I even like to call it progressive prospecting, right? Because the expectation and the belief, to be honest with you guys, that you guys are going to get out of here and start making 10 dials or 10 communications a day, 10 contacts a day. Some will, most won't. But here's the deal. You want to get committed and you want to get into the activity and then progressively build your way up to a level. If you start with 1, great, then tomorrow do 2, and then next week do 3. And at the end of that week, get to 5 and then keep moving upwards. That's the goal. It's not about getting 10 on day 1 and then 10 for the next 119 days, because that I believe is somewhat unrealistic. I'm not saying it's not possible, but what I don't want for any of you guys is to be in a situation where you feel like I don't have the chops to get to 10. I'm just not going to do it, which is what happens. People they don't feel a sense of achievement, so they look at a task and they see it's so insurmountable that they just give in before they even attempt. And we don't want to do that. I also said your success in real estate is in direct proportion to the number of people who, when they think of real estate, think of you. And we do that by creating a database and having people in that database and communicating with them effectively, consistently, and automatically. So when they're ready to transact, they will most likely say yes to us because we have stayed front of mind. And that's our goal once we meet people and get them into the database. And that consistent ongoing question is, how are people living in my database? Are there cobwebs forming around the contacts? Or are they alive? Are they vibrant? Are they living? Are they breathing? Do they respond to the content that I put out there? So we're going to talk about that tonight, about content as part of our communication. And then the last thing that I wanted to say is that, you don't become an MREA, which we call, that's the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and that's just the name of the book, right? You don't become a great agent by being great one day. You become a great agent by being 1% better every day. And that's how you really get to be a better human being as well, because that's progress, right? And we know slow and steady wins the race. It's progressive. And what we know about progression is that there's a hockey stick effect, that things happen slowly and then they happen suddenly. And most of the time, things happen behind the scenes when we think nothing is happening, right? When we think that that seed that we planted a week ago, that nothing's going to happen, it all of a sudden shoots up. It breaks ground, it shoots up, and then it goes bonsai. That's the same thing when we're consistent with the effort. We have to trust the process. Don't worry about the outcome. Stay committed to the process. And it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. All right. Any questions on that before we move forward? All right, let's do it. So this is where we stopped yesterday. We stopped on our database of building, feeding, and communicating with your database. And number one is build it, right? So we talked about what that looked like yesterday and pulling contacts from our phone and then being able to get those into a CRM. But I tell you what, I'm going to pause this right now because it's 6:25 or 8:25, depending on where you are. And I'm going to drop this into the chat, which is one call script. And then there is also a text script. And I would like to take 10 minutes. And if you guys, if you don't, for the people who it's Pacific time, if you don't want to make calls, send the text. Feel free to send the text. But you got 10 people who should be on your SOI. If you did your homework last night and identified who are your SOI, and you've got 10, 15, 20 people, let's copy and paste that text into them and just shoot it out to them. And if it's people you haven't talked to in a little while, then you may want to say like, hey, Anthony, what's happening? Quick question. Do you know anyone that's been talking about buying or selling this year? If it's someone that you engage with all the time, then just roll with this. Hey, Anthony, boom, go straight to the question. And here's what you're going to understand is that, a lot of people are going to be like, are you crazy? Like gas is high and, like food is high and we're in a war and oil and all these things. And yeah, it's true. We just agree with them. So yeah, I don't blame you. Or someone says, no, I'm on the sidelines. Like, you know what? I don't blame you. It's pretty crazy out there. Right. So we're on their side no matter what their response is. If they say, yeah, I'm thinking about doing something, great. What does that look like for you? If they say, no, man, it's got to calm down a little bit. It's a little too crazy. Yeah, I agree. It is kind of crazy out there. So who's down for making a few calls, sending out a few text messages? This is where the rubber meets the road. We can take 10 minutes, get our feet wet. Is that a yes? Is that a no? Are we taking the action? Calling now. Okay, so we are calling now. Great. All right. Well, I'm gonna put 10 minutes on the clock. And when you guys come back, let's see how it went. Awesome. Music play you what I can like. No samples behind. You're the best in town. If by chance you cross down and with the girl, you turned it on the world. You turned the world around. Did you realize that you were a champion in their eyes? But yours was different. Everyone stopped to stare at the technical approach. Every friend had your number on the wall. You must have had it all. But air on the there and you fought alone. Could you see the day? Could you feel your whole world fall apart? Wait. Now your patron Tabo left you in the red. Your low rent friend bed. Life can be very strange. All those days are free to use to pay the face. They join the new race. Something will never change. And you are right. But no, the one is so happy. Just get it all out of here. Is there gas in the car? Yes, there's gas in the people down the hall. What's the matter? Filling out there. All right, all right. So how did that go for everyone? Give me an idea. How many people were we able to text? What did outreach numbers look like? Any responses? Dijon, I know you got a couple of things going there. So anyone else? Anyone else just get some replies from people? Michael, texted three and one took my card to pass it on. All right.
Hello,
So
hello,
anyone else have any level of success in this 10 minutes of outreach?
hello.
Yes, sir.
Oh, perfect there. It's funny when we started there, I had a contact reach out to me and say I literally was trying to manifest like owning a home. So I tried to call her right away. She didn't
Uh-huh.
answer, so that's the follow-up call. And then I responded to a coworker DM that I've been trying to get her into the idea of selling buying a house as well too. So that was my two.
Okay.
Well, I responded back.
Awesome. Awesome. So, again, this is just an opportunity for us to, to get into action, right? To get into action, getting into the activity so we can kind of start to break the seal around it and start to get familiar with what it's like to send text messages, to get replies, and then how do we reply to someone who says yes, right? That's the most important thing about all this lead generation is that we have to be prepared for the yes, right? When someone says, sure, I'm interested in buying a home, they're like, oh my God, what do I do? So it's all about having that practice time, that script and dialogue where you're just going through these, you're going through your scripts, you're getting familiar with them, you're getting familiar to get to the end, you're getting familiar with someone that says, well, I need to wait until interest rates drop, or afraid of this, or there's always going to be some reason why someone is going to have hesitation around taking action. And yet, the more time we spend in script and dialogue, and the more familiar we get, and the more comfortable we get and have confidence around it, then we can have conversations where we start to ask real specific questions and get people to reveal their truths, right? And when we can put someone in a situation, in an environment where there is safety and they can speak their truth, then we can take that truth and put that into a workable framework and a solution that helps them get what they want, right? Because just like we have fear around making phone calls and knocking on doors and rejection, people who have never purchased a home before and have been lifetime renters have fear about that process. And just as we have fear, false evidence that appears real, an emotion of the future, so do they have fears about future events that haven't taken place because they just don't know. And when we can educate and inform people, right, our jobs as agents is to educate and inform people so they can then self-discover what decisions are in their best interests. And that's really what we do as real estate agents. You probably want to write that down, right? As a real estate agent, my job is to ask specific questions to help people self-discover what decisions are in their best interest. And when we help someone self-discover, we are helping them be in control of their own destiny. And when someone feels that they are in control of their destiny, they don't feel like they're being pressured. They don't feel like they're being sold. They feel like they're being guided and they feel like they're being consulted towards the direction they want to go in. And that feels good. It feels good when we're on the receiving end of that, and it feels good to be on the giving end of that as well. And that's what we do as real estate agents. So, all right. So moving along into number one, we build it. So we talked about building that in the database, going into that CRM, that contact management software there that basically allows us to communicate with our database systematically, automatically, and without thought, right? Systematically and automatically is what's important. And that's how we're leveraging technology. So it's not just always in our head as far as, oh, I got to call so and so, or oh, snap, I met them at the open house last week, told them I was going to call them on Monday, and it's Friday now. right? We don't want to run a business like that because that's haphazardly. And anything that is worth doing more than once is worth creating a system around it. So once we've built that database, right, we have contacts. Contacts are the people you are have a relationship with. They know you, they you know them, and you have their permission to engage in communication with them. Right. So once we build it, then the question becomes, how are we going to feed it? Because even if we have enough business in our sphere, enough contacts in our sphere to convert to opportunities, at some point, your database is just like a tree, just like a flower, just like a human being. It's either growing or it's dying. There is no middle ground. So how do we feed it then? And we talked about our sphere of influence, right? And how ideally you have a solid number of people in your sphere of influence. They are the most important group of people in your database. They are the people who know, like, and trust you and want to see you win. They want to help you. They are your biggest source of new, repeat, and referral business. And they all need to know you are a real estate agent. So if you are a new agent, it is your job and your responsibility and obligation to make sure that the people who know, like, and trust you know that you are now a licensed real estate agent and can help them with their buying or selling needs. And until you get to the level of competency where you feel that you can do that on your own, then you can do that with the help of a mentor, with the help of a productivity coach, with the help of another experienced agent in your office. But it's important that the people who know, like, and trust you know that you're licensed and know that you can take care of their real estate needs. All right, so there's a story about, let's see here. This is Jordan Davis from the MREA podcast. I'm going to grab a link here and I'm going to drop this into the chat for you guys right now. Let me do this. So I grabbed a link yesterday, and it is the link of all of the MREA podcasts. And I'm going to recommend that you guys listen to the MREA podcast because well, I'll say this about the host, Jason Abrams. He is the head of industry for Keller Williams, and he is an amazing, amazing speaker. And he is also, in my opinion, the heir apparent. So when Gary Keller finally decides that he's going to retire, don't be too shocked if you see Jason Abrams take the helm of Keller Williams into the future. All right, let me get back to here so I can get back. All right. Okay. So instead of reading that, I'm just going to drop the link in the chat here for you guys. They are excellent podcasts. They are great podcasts, yeah, like I can't speak highly enough of the MREA podcast. In fact, my suggestions for podcast listening for real estate, I would listen to MREA podcasts. I would also listen to Tom Ferry podcasts, although he hasn't dropped episodes with the same level of consistency as the MREA podcast. A couple other Keller podcasts. Um, Empire Builders is a great podcast, and that's kind of surrounded by the KW lady leaders. Um, Incredible women, many of them, most of them, have families, have big businesses, and they are just killing the game. So if you want to like be inspired by someone who has it all, and that's the thing about this working at this company is that you can be within arm's length of someone who is living the life that you want to live, right? Someone who has the family, has the career, runs the business, travels, owns real estate, investment real estate. Like you see their Facebook pages and like they're doing it all and it's possible. And that's what I said to you guys yesterday is that, like we have to start coming from thinking in possibilities about what's possible in our lives. in knowing that all I've got to do is go to the office and spend some time there, and there is someone walking the halls of that office that is living the life that I want to live. And all I need to do is figure out what they do and then replicate their model. I don't have to go out and refigure like the wheel again. I don't have to start from scratch. So all these agent success stories that are available to you through the multiple podcast channels at KW, Empire Builders, The Color of Money is also another great podcast, MREA podcast. They are all there to uplift, inspire, and educate us as agents. That's one of the amazing things that about being with this company. No worries, Jonathan, you're here, man. And Steven, good luck. You said you texted someone earlier who might have a future listing. Follow up, follow up, follow up. Figure out if it's a future listing, right? What's their motivation? What like their motivation and their time frame? The two most important things we want to figure out when we're having conversations with someone who's thinking about buying, selling, or investing. Why are they thinking about doing what they're thinking about doing? And what's their time frame to do it? Without motivation and time frame, we can't help them. We can't put together a structure. Once we have motivation, then we know we can put together a solution. So make sure you guys write that down as far as what's important when someone says I'm thinking about buying a home or I'm thinking about selling my home. What's got you thinking about it? And once you know motivation, then we know we can help them out. All right, so the activities for our database, our contacts, when we're filling out contacts in command in our CRM, or even if it's in your phone and you're meeting someone, the most important thing to get is we want names. Obviously, we want first and last name. We want a cell number because we can text them. We want an email address because with email and a cell number, we can set them up on campaigns within Command, smart plans that allow us to call, text, and email. Address, if they own a property, we want that address so it can also go in Command and they can get on market snapshots. If there's any past record of business, if they're a past client, we want to know what that was. When did they transact? What did they buy? So we just know how to follow up with them. Any notes and any kind of additional information. In regards to this, in your guides, I was looking through that in that memory jogger of all the different professions of people who we may know. I think I counted about 150. I'm going to ask you guys to spend some time between tomorrow and Sunday of filling out that list to the best of your knowledge, going through that memory jogger exercise. Who is your cleaner? Who is your plumber, your electrician, your mechanic, the person at the coffee shop, the one at the donut shop, your doctor, your dentist, the pediatrician? All of those different people that we have communication with and they are in our lives, and yet we haven't seen them as someone who can be potential opportunity for us in business, right? So we have to start looking at things differently, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. So when we start seeing people as potential opportunity, then when we run into them, we can start having more intentional conversations about what does that look like, right? Where's the real estate opportunity within the conversation that we can now have? All right, so feeding the database, because our database is a living, breathing, alive part of our business, and we're either feeding it or it's dying. And leads are people you add to your database through your lead generation activities. You haven't established a relationship and yet have the right to a one-way conversation with them. So yesterday, when we looked at that chart, that lead generation model, at the top of it, it said, I attract leads and then I generate leads, and both are correct. There is no wrong answer there. And yet, how we determine to feed the database, right? Feeding the database is a habit. And nothing changes in your life until you change something that you do every day. So, just like I mentioned, when you get into the elevator, do you look at your phone or do you look at the person getting in or who's already in the elevator and say hello? That alone is dictating whether or not you're choosing to seize an opportunity. And it's not about talking to every single stranger, but it is about creating the awareness of an opportunity that's in front of you, just like creating the awareness of opportunities that are in your phone and in your database. When we create awareness, we elevate our consciousness. And when we create our awareness around opportunity, guess what? Opportunity shows up. Because just like action begets action, opportunity begets opportunity. And when we start seeing things differently than the things we look at, we see differently, right? We don't see the same thing because we're thinking and seeing from an expanded awareness. So how we choose to feed the database is very important. And we know that that comes from communications. We just get to decide, how am I having those communications? Am I knocking on doors? Am I calling expireds? Am I holding open houses? Am I heavy on social media? Am I running Facebook ads? Am I sponsoring the PTA, sponsoring the local little league, talking to parents at my daughter's soccer league, my son's baseball organization? What does that look like? We all have those niches. We have to start looking at what's the opportunity within the niches. Myself, like I said, I love baseball, I love fishing, and I also love cars. A few weeks ago, I went to a car event and just said, I got to do more of this because I was hanging around for 3 hours with people who were geeking out over vintage BMWs. And I was geeking out right there with them. And I had more meaningful conversations with complete strangers than I've had at any open house, to be honest with you, and made deeper, richer connections in those conversations. So I said, I got to start doing more of this. I need to start showing up at more of cars and coffee events so I can just go be with my tribe. And we all have a tribe, right? Whatever that tribe is for you, there's opportunity there. We need to identify that and say, how do I start to spend more time with my tribe so I can have conversations with people who are like me, and people want to do business with people who are like them, and feed your database. So just like I told you guys yesterday about what is your unique gift, your unique ability, and how do I build a world around my unique ability where my lead generation comes from my unique ability or my passion or my hobby, whatever that is. Figure out what you like to do. And then you can get creative and go into Chat GPT and say, hey, Chat, I love fishing and I'm a new agent. Give me some ideas of how I can build a database around fishing related activities. And look at the answers. That's the world that we're living in right now. And that's the world that we have to start thinking from. We can't be doing things from the old way of how they were done. We have to be looking at what's happening today, and then how do I step into that and take advantage of the technology and the opportunities and the strategic thinking that's available for me. We're definitely getting into a point right now where we're being forced to think more. And with ChatGPT and other large language models, the great thing about it is that it's based on questioning, right? It's based on asking questions. The better your prompting and questions are to a large language model, the better your responses are. So we're moving from a time in which knowing the answer was what's important, but now, like we know, he or she who asks the questions controls the communication. But every time when we ask a bigger question, we open ourselves up for a bigger, better response to come through. And that's where growth takes place. So, any questions on feeding it? What does that look like? Based on the numbers, and I'm going to share that economic model with you, based on the numbers of 125 conversations, 125 to 150 conversations for a closed transaction for a new agent, what does that look like for me? That's the question you guys should be asking yourselves. Do I have enough in my database to hit those goals? If so, then I just have a lead follow-up and a lead conversion issue. If I don't, then I have a lead generation problem and I have to determine how do I choose to feed my database. And once you determine how you're going to feed it, then what's the system around it? What's the system? What's the process? What's the play that I can run, right? Determine the handful of plays that you're going to run. And then our job every day is to get up and execute that play. It's not about knowing 20 plays, it's about knowing two or three and learning to run them flawlessly. All right, lead generation is the process of finding people who need to buy or sell real estate. It's how we create opportunities from our connections and turn relationships into results. It's the 20% effort that gets you 80% of the results. So that's going back to Pareto's principle. Anyone remember what the 20% of activities for the real estate agent was? Anyone? Alexa says lead generation follow-up appointments. That's 3 out of the 5. That gets you a two-piece winner chicken dinner. Negotiate contracts. She's 4 out of 5. That gets you a biscuit. Daily scripted role play. We're throwing in that corn. All right, that's it. Awesome job. Again, the 20% of activities for a real estate agent. Lead generation, lead follow-up, scheduling and going on appointments, negotiating contracts, daily script and role play. And if you don't have any appointments or you're not negotiating contracts, then you're left with lead generation, lead follow-up, and daily script and role play. And as I said yesterday, if I had to rank those in order of importance, I would almost say daily script and role play, lead follow-up, and lead gen last. And oh my God, don't shoot me for saying that. But the reason behind that is that when you know what to say, you have competence. And that builds confidence. And confidence in this industry will take you further faster than coming from a position of fear. So when we learn what to say and we feel confident about it, then we can go out and speak intelligently. And that allows us to move through our fear. And when we can move through our fear, we can get to where we want to be in life that much faster. Because everything that we want is just on the other end of our comfort zone. It's just on the other side. All right. And then lead follow-up. You can generate 100 leads, but if your follow-up game is weak, you may not convert any of them. You could hold open houses every single week, have great conversations, and tell people, oh, I'm going to send you this tomorrow. I'll call you on Tuesday. Yeah, yeah. And nothing happens. And those people don't close on their own. They just go buy from someone else. And then when you do follow up with them several months later, they're like, "Oh, I already bought." You're like, "Ooh, okay. Well, I guess I knew that they were a live one. I just didn't follow up with them." So when the follow-up game is tight, right? No leads fall through the crack. I'd rather have a tight follow-up game and fewer leads and higher conversion than a pool full of leads that I'm not converting. Ideally, you have a balance of all three. You have a balance of script and role play. You have a balance of lead generation and a strong balance of follow-up. But in order of importance, you got to know what to say to build the confidence. And then you got to know when I get a lead, how do I follow up with it? Because if they're not ready to do something today or next week, then we have to be able to follow up with them over a period of time until they are ready to convert. All right, let's talk about prospecting and marketing. So in the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, this book here, that was written by Gary Keller, Dave Jenks, may he rest in peace, and Jay Papasan, talks about prospecting and marketing. In the book, when they wrote that book in 2001, 2002, they said you should be marketing focused and prospecting enhanced. And the reason they said that was because in order for you to be able to hit the number of people that you needed to hit to have what they were referring to as $1 million business, you had to have a component of marketing and able to be able to reach the masses. So it was marketing focused, prospecting enhanced. When the shift in the market came in 2008, they changed that and they said no, because it's all about cutting costs and trimming your expenses. So now we need to be prospecting focused and marketing enhanced. And as we see on the right of marketing, it's money intensive, it's passive, and it offers long-term results. When we look at prospecting, we see that it's time intensive, it's proactive, and it can offer immediate results. Now, when we look at ourselves in new agents, what do you think new agents have more? More money or more time? That was a question. More time. Yes, of course, more time, right? So we want to be able to leverage our time until we build a consistency around the habit of lead generation. And here's what happens. This is what we're all working for. And you guys may want to write this down. What I talked about yesterday. I said our goal is to find people, ask them specific questions based on those responses, set up an opportunity where we're going to have a buyer consultation or a listing presentation, go on that appointment, get an agreement, and then service that need. And that's really all we do. So what happens was that when we get consistent in the process of lead generation, we build the habit, we build the muscle of discipline around lead generation, and we are consistent in that effort. At some point in time, you're going to have more business than you know what to do with. And everyone out there is probably like, sure, I wish I had that problem. But trust me, if you lead generate consistently, you will come to a point where you have more business than you can actively handle. And here's what it looks like. You go to the circus, the person that's spinning the plates, right? You get the one plate spinning, you get the second one spinning, you get the third one spinning. As a real estate agent, let's say that those are people you're working with. I got my first buyer under contract and that plate's spinning. Well, I'm going to hold an open house on Sunday, right? So I'm spinning the plate of my buyer under contract, and now I'm holding the open house on Sunday. The open house on Sunday goes real well. It's super busy. You get 5 people that you have to follow up with. 2 say they want to meet with you next week. A third one says they want to see properties. So now you got the escrow going. You did the open house. You got follow-up from the open house. You got appointments to set for the showings, and then you got preparation for the 2 people that now want to meet with you. You've got 4 plates spinning. If one of those 2 people that you meet with now says, I want to do something, now you've got another plate spinning. And the thing is that we can't let any of the plates that are spinning drop. So what do, right? We get to a point where we're doing all that we can do, and there's still more to do because I still have to prospect daily. I still got to get ready for the next open house. I still got to manage the escrow. I still have to look on the MLS twice a day for the new buyer I picked up. And hopefully I'm going to pick up another buyer from the 2 appointments. So you guys see how it can start to snowball and progress from slowly to suddenly. So when we master lead generation and we get to a point where we're doing all that we can do and there's still more to do, that's when we bring in leverage. And we bring in leverage first through technology, right? Through the systems, the models, and the technology. And that is to handle the 80% that isn't lead generation, lead follow-up, setting and going on appointments, negotiating contracts, and daily script and role play. As agents, we want to live in our 20% if at all possible. When we start off as new agents, we're doing 100% of everything. And it doesn't take a lot of the 80% to bog us down. And then the 80%, we make excuses as to why we don't lead generate. Well, because I had to send this marketing piece out or I had to post this Facebook ad. That's why I didn't prospect. So we bring in leverage first through technology and systems and models, and then through people. And that's going to be through a part-time assistant. And that part-time assistant, or now AI, and there is so much that AI can do in replicating the duties and the tasks of a VA that it's mind-blowing to where you can effectively have AI handling 80% of your activities. That leaves you time to focus on the 20% that drives your business. And when you get to that spot, that is a sweet spot. Because when you have that leverage, here's what happens. It frees up your time. You get your time back. You start buying back your time. We talked about this yesterday, right? We all get 24 hours in a day. And through leverage, we buy our time back. And when you can start buying back your time, guess what? Then you can be at every soccer game of your kids. You can be at home on the weekends because you don't have to wash the car, cut the grass, do the grocery shopping, clean the house, whatever that looks like. And that's all about what having a quality of life is, a higher quality of life. So systematic lead generation is the key to a higher quality of life, and that is the process. And if you never get further than having a VA or AI handling the majority of the 80% in your business, then you're doing pretty well. You're at a sweet spot where you can choose to stay there and have time and money, or you can choose to grow and just bring more people and more leverage into your business. But at the end of the day, most people are either struggling in between. I don't have enough time or I don't have enough money. And how do I get to a sweet spot where there's a balance of both of those? Because when we get there, that's what we call a higher quality of life. And that's what it is for most people. Any questions on that? Because that's a big aha. That's a big thought. That's kind of future looking at the future of like, what is this thing in real estate really all about? It's about getting consistent in a habit of having conversations that at some point allow you to write, you're priming the well. And when you get the flow of opportunity going consistently, that flow of opportunity is going to allow you to bring leverage into your business. And every time you bring leverage into your business, be it through a system, a tool, a person, or a model, it is to buy back your own time. And when you can buy back your own time, you're winning the game. And you go from chasing time and not having enough of it to being a master of time. And we see that in other people and say, how do they do it? That's what's possible for us. All right. So prospecting based, marketing enhanced. Yes, we could have a whole class on chat and Claude and I'm doing a lot of deep diving into that and at some point we'll probably be teaching some classes on it because it's a game changer. It is the future. There will be more millionaires made in 5 years through chat GPT and large language models than the internet made in 20 years. And things are moving so fast in that space where there's not time to yeah, we can talk about that because I'm doing a lot with that. It's moving so fast there's not time for catch up. And there's an opportunity for you to stake your claim in life and business and real estate and be ahead of the wave and then just let that momentum of the wave ride you out. All right. So prospecting, different types of prospecting, phone or face-to-face, listings without agencies. So we can prospect for sale by owners. We can call expireds, right? That's getting on the phone. That's pounding phones. For sale by owners. Anyone know what there's another acronym for sale by owners, FSBOs. It's fastest source of business opportunity. Write that one down. Fastest source of business opportunity. Why? Because someone who wants to sell their home has raised their hand and says, I need help because I don't know what I'm doing and I want to save a commission, but I've got too much pride to bring in a professional to help me out through the process. So a for sale by owner is the equivalent of an attorney who is representing themselves. And we know what that person is considered, right? The attorney who represents himself has a fool for a client, is how it is said. Circle prospecting. You guys know what circle prospecting is? Here's a circle prospecting. Hey, Dejan, this is Anthony with Keller Williams. I was just calling you to let you know my team just listed 123 Main Street. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,650 square feet, just remodeled on a 7,500 square foot lot. It's listed for $899. My question to you, Dejan, is who do you know in the neighborhood who may be thinking about moving in? Do you know anyone? Great. I appreciate you thinking about it. Hey, how long have you lived in the area? 20 years. Wow, that's a long time. You've probably seen a lot of changes. Wow, you're probably sitting on a lot of equity too. Have you ever considered selling while the market is still up? Oh, you haven't? Okay, great. Well, let me ask you this. If you were to sell, where would you go? Oh, you'd go to Texas. I love Texas. What's there? Oh, your daughter's there and your new grandkid. Wow. Okay. Well, how soon did you think you'd want to be in Texas? Oh, maybe a year and a half. Okay, great. Well, then I should probably just follow up with you periodically and keep you abreast of what's going on in the market and maybe just, see what's going on. And if there's an opportunity for you to get there sooner, maybe that's a possibility. So that's what circle prospecting is. And we can circle prospect around our own listings. We can circle prospect around listings of agents in our office, or we can effectively circle prospect around sold listings. And another aspect of circle prospecting is called the 10-10-20. And write this down. This is the 10-10-20. So if you ever hold an open house, when you hold an open house is typically a passive activity where you just go to the open house and you wait for people to come in there. That's passive. If you're going to hold an open house and have it be an active activity, then what you're going to do is on the Friday, if you're holding an open house on Saturday or Sunday, that Friday, you're going to door knock 10 doors to the right of the open house, 10 doors to the left, and then the 20 across the street. And you're going to have a flyer for those neighbors and you're going to invite them to the open house. And say, hey, the open house is from 1 to 4, and yet we're doing a neighborhood preview from 12 to 12:45. That's active prospecting. That's circle prospecting. That's taking an active activity of holding an open house to a passive activity of holding an open house to an active activity of holding an open house. And here's what we know about why you do that. When a for sale sign goes up in someone's front yard, typically someone in the line of sight who can see that sign is going to put their home in the market. And it's been that way for decades. We know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, when someone puts a for sale sign in their home, that typically 1 or 2 homes in the area sell right away. So why not get in front of that? And that can be an open house on your own listing. That can be an open house on a listing in the farm area that you want to break into. And that can even be a recently sold listing in an area that you want to break into. Because the truth is that only 20% of the agents are really doing that activity, which means that there's an 80% opportunity for you to go out there and do it. Safety tips when door knocking, well, trust the area. There's a lot to be said about that, depending on where you live, knocking on strangers' doors may not be the best thing. So, yeah, depending on what state you live in, CWC is an option. But if you're familiar with the area, if it's your own area, you can be door knocking's it can be okay. But like I said, you got to trust your own judgment. Definitely trust your own judgment there. But door knocking behind sold listings, doing a 10-10-20 around a recently sold property Hey, your neighbor down the street just sold. It was on the market at 9.99. It closed at 1.1. Was just stopping by to see who do you know in the area who may be thinking of selling. It's a great way to pick up business because we know someone else who can see that sign is going to put their home on the market. And the most of the times, the agent who sold that listing did not get out and do that activity. So they have left fruit on the vine for you to get in there and go get. Then we have community outreach, charity volunteer work, right? What organizations are you already involved in where you can plug in real estate, right? There's opportunities there. All of these just take your time. Takes skill and takes your time. No money involved here. Marketing, offline advertising. So we can do radio ads, TV ads, newspapers, personal vehicles, bus stops, benches, magazines, billboards, yellow pages. Don't do yellow pages. That's passe. The fact that it's even in here is astounding. Grocery carts, moving vans. If I was going to do any of these, I would probably do personal vehicles. If I had a car that was, if I was going to look at something, do you wrap your car? All depends. Can you put a magnet on the side door? Sure, you can do that. If I was going to do it, I would do it and have a QR code, or I'd go all out and I'd wrap it, right? And wrap it and have a QR code and like, there's some people say, yeah, do it. And some people say, oh, I would never do it. But you get tax write-offs from wrapping your car. You get a lot of promotion, a lot of free advertising. So, like it's a personal choice. Marketing, I don't see anything here with social media, but Facebook ads can be relatively inexpensive and cost effective to build a database. They tend to have a lower conversion rate, but if you can generate a Facebook lead for under $5 or $6 a lead, it can be a really good way to get an accurate name, phone number, and email address. And if you nurture them over time, over a 12, 18-month period for most of them, they will convert. And it gives you an opportunity to have conversations with someone who has raised their hand. And like I said, the most important thing that I like about them is the accuracy of the information. The phone numbers will be legit for the most part, and so will the email addresses. And that's because when the registration field self-populates in Facebook, it populates with the information tied to that account holder. So that person would have to go in there and type in Donald Duck over John Doe and do the same for an accurate email or phone number. Both prospecting and marketing, farming, and events. So we have demographic farming, right? Which would be like me farming my little league or my nephew's baseball network, or geographic farming. That would be, 500 homes in this demographic, where it's the area where you live. So there's different types of farming and they can both be effective. Demographic farming is like, what's your hobby? What do you like doing? Right? Like I should go spend more times at Cars and Coffee and turn that into a demographic farm. And then get to a point where I'm then sponsoring those events. I would love nothing more than to sponsor a Cars and Coffee event where 200 people showed up and I just sat there at some table and at the registration table and checked people in and just did a meet and greet. And I got 100 people coming to meet. That's a lot easier than me going out and trying to talk to 100 people, right? And we're having conversations because we like the same things. So events, open houses, seminars, contests, client appreciation events. Seminars can be big, both buyer seminars and seller seminars. They can be seminars in person or they can be webinars via Zoom. Both very good ways to leverage getting multiple people into a room and presenting at once. And if you can present to 10 people as opposed to presenting to one, why not? So when you take the time to learn script and dialogue and you take the time to learn how to give an effective buyer consultation, then you can do home buying seminars. And 99% of the time, your lender will be there with you, and they will also share in the cost with you. So in between your lender and your title person, you can do home buying seminars, home buying webinars at no cost to you. And if you get 10 or 15 people in a room and you present to them, you're going to close at least 25% of them. You just will, because you're in front of them. You're the professional. You're the one that's delivering the information. Any questions on farming? Any questions on events?
Hey, can you hear me?
I sure can.
When I hear the word farming, I'm always thinking like banking or lenders, like providing lists. That's some of the kind of conversations I've been having there. Is there anything at Keller that we can get list on that kind of notion, or is it more? I know we're making our own lists and own databases, but I've heard that from other people and things. So
Yeah, your title rep can get you public record information of any area, right?
title rep,
Your title
gotcha.
rep, yeah,
Thank
they
you.
can get you farms. So, and on that note, I would say write this down. It's the website is Dynamic Farm.
Dynamic farms,
Yeah, and it doesn't matter who the title company is, if it's lawyers or First Title or whatever, or Banana Title Company, they all have access to Dynamic Farm. And within Dynamic Farm, you can get when you get a farm from your title rep, have them uploaded into Dynamic Farm. Within Dynamic Farm, you can then see the grade of the turnover rate of that farm. Is it an A, B, or a C? It's so you get a grade of the turnover rate, and then you also get a percentage rate of turnover. And in my
thank you.
professional opinion, I would not farm any area that didn't have at least a 4% turnover rate. Ideally, you want something that's got between a 6 and 7. If it's the area you live in and it's a 4% turnover rate, then farm it because you live there and there's opportunity. But ideally, you want to get into something that's got somewhere between a 5 and a 7%. That's an area there's enough turnover. So even if there's an agent that has dominant market share, there's still enough turnover there for you to get in there and get opportunity. And that's through Dynamic Farm. And then I'm going to give you guys this information here on farming. If you're farming a geographic farm, in this order is the order of opportunity within that farm. It will always be out-of-state property owners first. And then it will always be absentee owners second. And then it will be owner-occupied owners third. So in your farm, your out-of-state owners mean that they own the home in California, they live in Texas, and they rent it out. That's an out-of-state owner. The absentee owner lives in LA, or they live in they own the house in LA, but maybe they just live in the valley 40 minutes away, or they live in San Diego. So they're an absentee. So they live within the same state where the property is owned. And then owner occupied, obviously, they live in the house that they own. People out of state were always going to have the highest turnover within any farm. And you can build a great business communicating with those people because they just don't know. If they're out of state, they don't know what's going on. They may have been 5 years since they've even seen the property. So a dynamic farm will identify who the out-of-state owners are within a farm, who the absentee owners are, and who the owner-occupieds are. And then you can tag those within your database and know how to follow up with them. And if you've got a farm of 500 and you've got 60 out-of-state owners, well, you can spend time getting real familiar with those 60 people. And it may be worth driving by each one of those 60 homes, taking a picture of the home and sending it to them. Say, hey, here's what your home looks like. I thought you might be interested. If you're interested in what it's worth, I'd be more than happy to put some numbers together and shoot it to you. All right. You send someone a photo of their house, of what it looks like today, and they're in New York and you're in LA, that's going to mean something to them. It's going to strike up a conversation. Events, open houses, seminars, contests, client appreciation events. So open houses is going to be one of the topics of the Breakthrough 120. And it is, in my opinion, one of the best ways for any agent, especially newer agents, to convert buyers and get business. A lot of people go through open houses. And again, when you have a system of intention around the open house, right? Your goal for every open house is to get one person who's going to meet you outside of that open house for an appointment. That's the goal. That's the intention. We set that going into the open house, right? So when we show up at the open house, we can run the open house play and have intentional conversations or intentional communications versus casual conversations, ask specific questions that reveal whether or not there's an opportunity, or we can then close for an appointment on the spot. And that's a skill set. That's a skill set that you want to learn as part of your ongoing script and dialogue, is how to effectively ask questions at an open house that can reveal an opportunity that I can then close for. And I don't have that script ready to give to you guys, but I'll get the list, or I'll make sure to add that to the documents to Alana, so she can provide those to you guys for as part of like what I'm going to give you for these 2 nights. But it's a process. And when you know that process, you can go in there and start asking questions. And based on, you can ask questions so you know who to spend your time with at the open house. Because if it's busy, you don't want to spend your time with the looky-loo, or you don't want to spend the time with someone that's got an agent and you're letting the person walk by you that needs to buy a home in the next 2 weeks because you don't know how to process and categorize people and ask specific questions and say, this one, these two, go, 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 go. You're okay. I'm going to spend my time with you because you check all the boxes. Like I said, seminars, why present to one when you can present to many? And when you do it over Zoom, there's a whole process and a model to it. You can be extremely effective. And it's a great way to build your database. Because even people who register for seminars online and they don't show up, when you follow up with those people, you can convert at least 20% of those people to appointments. And then you can send them replays of the webinar. And, there's a whole model behind this that's very well. It works well. Contests tend to take money at some point, but they can be effective. And client appreciation events, when you actually do have clients, appreciation events are a great way to connect with them on an annual basis and show your appreciation. And those are events where you just get all your people in the same room and you just network and you're just smoozing, and ideally leaving with business opportunities from the event. All right. Any questions on farming or events and the like before we move on and charge through our last half an hour? How we doing out there? We doing good? Yeah. All right. Let's keep it moving along. All right. So this is one of my favorite graphs here. This is called the rule of three. And what this means is that each one of these numbers here, right? The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are different sources of lead generation. And what the rule of three says is that there are going to be 3 pillars of lead generation that are going to account for 72% of your business, with the number one source accounting for almost 40%. Almost half of your business is going to come from one source of lead generation. So that's why it's important to identify what is it that works for you, right? Is it your hobby, or is it your unique ability? Or is it the fact that you present well and you just do online webinars, or you're sociable and you like to do open houses? Whatever it is, figure out what it is. What comes easy to you? Because whatever that comes easy, you're most likely to do it more often, and there's less resistance around it. And any time in life there's less resistance, there's more flow. And when we can break down the resistance in our life and have a life with more ease, more grace, and more flow, that feels good. And anything that feels good, we tend to want to do it more often. So when we can get to feeling good about lead generation, we'll do it more often. And we do it more often, and we build consistency around it. And when we build consistency around it, like I said, it's the path to the quality of life. This is important here. This is really important. And as a new agent, it's important to identify what's the one thing that works for me the most that I'm going to put my focus and attention into mastering because I know almost 40% of my business is going to come from it. And then we identify what are number two and what are number three. And how I would do this, I would say I'm going to give myself two 90-day cycles if it's open houses and I'm a new agent. I'm gonna immerse myself in the open house process and learn everything about it. So after 90 days, I'm gonna be very competent in holding open houses and having communications and converting. After 180 days, I'm gonna be a slayer. I'm going to be able to say, oh, I need three buyers. Well, I'm going to go hold an open house this weekend on Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to get my three buyers with that level of certainty. That's what's possible. It could be open houses, it can be social media, it can be Facebook ads, it can be whatever it is you want it to be. But once you figure out what it is, you got to commit to going deep and becoming the master of it over, I would do two 90-day cycles. And then I would say, what does the next one look like? And then what does the third one look like? Because after the first 90-day cycle, then it would make sense to say, okay, what does a soft launch of the second form of lead generation look like? I'm still working on mastering that first form in days 91 through 180, but I can do a soft launch. I can maybe hold one online webinar that quarter, or I can hold two in that quarter while I'm still mastering my open house competency. So by the time I get to month 7, I am a ninja in open houses. I am picking up momentum in my online webinars. And then I'm saying, what's number 3? And maybe you get to number 3 in third quarter or fourth quarter, or maybe you don't get to that until the next year. And either way, it's okay. Because if you've mastered number 1 and number 2, well, then you've mastered the 2 pillars of lead generation that are going to be accountable for almost 60% of your business. And if you never got to number 3, then you'd still be okay. The reason why you get to number 3 is because at some point, 1 and 2 are going to soften up. It just happens. Everything cycles. So webinars can be great for a year or two, and then people don't show up. Open houses can be great. And guess what? When COVID hit, well, open houses went away. So if open houses were your money maker and COVID came, guess what? If you didn't have a second or third pillar of lead generation, you were hanging out to dry. Any questions around the pillar of 3? Because this one's real important too. We always start with the 1 and we say, what's number 2? What's number 3? And we online these progressively. We focus on 1, and when we've taken that first step towards mastery, then we say, okay, what's the soft launch of number 2? And then once these two plates are spinning, how do I get the third one up in the air? And these just come with time. These just come with time and time on task, time in the industry. You'll pick them up. And like I said, if you ever get to them, great. If you don't, oh well, because these 3 here are going to sustain you. Any questions on the rule of 3? All right. Brian needs more coffee. I'm actually doing pretty well here. So, okay, moving along here. 24-hour recall. I'm not going to really touch on this. I'm just going to say, going back to that memory jogger, make sure you guys do that memory jogger between now and Sunday. Take the time to fill that out. And when you fill that out, make sure you can get the information. Once you fill out who the people are, then you can say, well, are they in my database? Are they in my phone now? Or the next time when I go to the cleaners, do I need to have a conversation with the cleaner? Right? Because anyone who takes clothes to the dry cleaner knows that it's not cheap. So if you're helping pay the dry cleaners kids college fund, you should be able to have conversations about real estate and what that looks like. Okay, from the MRA podcast, I dropped that in the chat for you guys, right? I did drop that, correct? The link for the MRA podcast? Yes, okay, I did. Fantastic. All right. So that's a shared link, and that should just update as the every single week. So you can also go to the MRA podcast and register, and then every Thursday those notes will come out to you, or you can just let them live on that link and go from there. And this is the activity here that we talked about as far as that memory jogger. And I keep going back to this because it's a great way to realize who you know that you're not presently seeing as opportunity. And that's what's important, that we have to shift how we think, right? Being in this business is going to require us to think differently. And I don't know what previous industry you guys are coming in from. Maybe you're coming from an industry where what you did there can be a benefit to what you do as a real estate agent. Or maybe you're coming from something that's completely different and it's just a whole new world and a whole new language, and you have to learn how to speak that language. But it all starts with thinking first, right? And where is there opportunity that's already in my world that I'm presently unaware of? And once you can create the awareness around something, then you never look at it the same way and you can start treating it differently. All right. Number 3, communicate with it. So consistent, meaningful contact builds relationships. Pair touches with meaningful, relevant, and timely information to provide value to those you connect with. And I don't know if I can remember what I said from James Shaw yesterday, but value without consistency is anonymous. Consistency without value is annoying. Write that down. Value without consistency is anonymous. Consistency without value is annoying. If you've got someone on a 36 touch campaign and you're not providing value and you're just sending them annoying things that just don't have anything to do with them, they're just irrelevant. No one wants 12 months worth of recipe cards. Although I do believe a good recipe is worth sending, right? But what are you thinking about sending? And there's a lot of things that you can do with Chat GPT and helping to identify what your ICP, your ideal client profile is. So I spent a time going through exercise in Chat GPT and coming up with ideal client profiles, ideal client personas for buyers, for sellers, for 2 to 4 unit investors. And then based on that ICP, I can have Chat create a 36 touch program that has four quarterly calls, 12 text messages, and 18 emails. And it's all in a communication that talks to what's important to them, what they value, what their fears, what their concerns, what their goals are. Those are the kind of things that we want to be able to do with how we communicate. And yet, how we communicate is essentially, what's the medium? Is it a text? Is it an email? Is it a phone call? Is it a postcard? Is it a paid ad to the Instagram or to Facebook? What's the frequency? Is it daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually? And then what's the message? When we get intentional about that, and with what we have available today and leveraging, ChatGPT and Claude, and being able to create ICPs for our clients, right? And the ICP of a seller in LA is going to be different than that and of someone in Ohio or Texas. They're going to have some commonalities because they're going to be human beings and they're selling. But depending on where they live and what they do and what's important to them, there will be differences. And when you can speak to someone's listening and connect with them, right? All the communication that we do is about connecting, right? When we can connect with someone and provide value, effective communication does what? It instills trust and confidence. And when we can do that through text messaging and email correspondence and a quarterly phone call every 90 days, then when that individual's ready to transact, they will most likely use us. And the other thing about speaking or communicating to someone's listening is that they become more responsive. So when your texts, your emails, your social media ads or posts actually get people to engage and they reply, they're raising their hand. And when people raise their hand, that's a lot easier for us as opposed to figuring out who can we help. But we have to be intentional about that process. And today, on this day, on April 15th, 2026, like that is easier today than it's ever been before. But we have to start thinking differently. We can't think about the same way that we did 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago because the world has changed and it's changed rapidly. Any questions on communication? Communication's huge, right? The quality of your life is solely based on the quality of your ability to communicate and the effectiveness of your communication. You know how I know that is because I know people who aren't really strong communicators. They don't have strong verbal skills. My aunt, my uncle, God rest their soul, like they came from a small town in Texas and they barely got out of high school. They didn't have great communication skills. So when something happened, they were just at the mercy of the occurrence. They couldn't get on the phone and talk to someone and right or wrong. They just had to deal with it. So when we can help people understand things through our communication, then we can make connections with them that instill trust and confidence. And when we instill trust and confidence, right, they feel that emotionally and they can say yes to us because, like I said, logic makes you think, but emotion makes you act. And when we can hit someone emotionally through our communication, we've reached them. And when we've reached them, then yes is the next logical response. Any questions on that? All right. TCPA, Telephone Consumer Protection Act. You must comply with the TCPA and any other federal, state, or local laws, including for B2B calls and texts. Never call or text a number on any do not call list and do not use an auto dialer or artificial voice or pre-recorded messages without proper consent. Contact your attorney to ensure your compliance, and for more information, visit that URL. So it is your responsibility to subscribe to the registry, check before you call, update your call list, honor consumers' requests, and know the state and federal laws. Basically, you should know in your database who's on the do not call list. There are some services that will scrub a list for you and flag who's on the DNC list, and you can't call those people. Another thing that I like about Facebook ads is that, Facebook ads are that's when people register. And when you register, you opt in, right? When you sign that registry at an open house, there's typically something at the bottom that says, hey, by registering here, you give consent to have someone reach out to you. If it's a friend, you can call your friend. I mean, if your friend said, don't call me, I'm on the DNC list, then maybe they're not a friend. But if they're your friend, you should be able to call them. Um, but yeah, that's important because there's big lawsuits out there. Keller Williams has paid some big settlements for um, agents who have called people who are on the DNC list. And you're saying that I don't know or I didn't know is typically not good enough. But like I said, when you get a database and you've got it scrubbed and you know who not to call and who to call and who you're free to call and you got social media ads or Facebook ads and people are opting in, then you're good to go. But this is big because you don't want to, one of these fines can hit you hard. You call an attorney and they've got nothing better to do than to go after you and your license and your livelihood, then it's not so fun. Frequency in running the DNC list. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if you would need to do it. I mean, let's say if you're doing it for a farm and there's 500 homes in that farm and there's 6% turnover, then that means 30 people are going to turn over. So, you know, 30 out of those 500 are going to change, so that's a pretty small percentage. And if you call someone and they say, "Hey, I'm on the DNC list." "Oh, sorry, I didn't know." Like let me update that. But that's a great question. And maybe ask your leadership or your legal department what they would recommend for frequency in which you would scrub your database or your farm list against the DNC. I do know a company, RedX, will scrub lists and flag DNC. And there's a couple of other data providers that I can't think of that also offer that service. But RedX is let me see. Dynamic Farm. It's not dynamicfarm.com. It's Dynamic Farm, but that's you're going to use to for the farm list. Just reach out to your title company and ask them about Dynamic Farm, and they can hook you up an account. But you want to do that for all your farming. Uh, Upload your farm, see what the grade is, see what the turnover rate is, and then make a determination as to whether or not you're going to invest your time, resources, and money there. Okay, so Ford. Ford is an acronym. Actually, Ford has several acronyms. If it's pertaining to the car, it could be found on road dead or fix or repair daily. And hey, nothing against Ford owners. I just remember that from being a kid. But in conversation, Ford, right? Family, occupation, recreation, dreams. These are the foundational aspects of communication that you can have with anyone, people you know, people you don't know, that tend to move conversations forward, right? Ring, ring. Hey, Dijon, this is Anthony. Hey, what's up, man? Hey, not too much, man. How's the family doing? Oh, man, family doing great. Kids in school, sports, running around, blah, 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 woo, woo, woo. Wow, that's awesome. How the real estate business treating you? Well, you know what? I've been in it 6 months. I'm hustling. I got a few deals in escrow. I got a couple of closings. It's going pretty well. Awesome. So it sounds like you may have some time for a vacation this year. What does that look like? Oh man, we're actually going to go to Italy. We're going to Europe. I'm taking the family to Europe. I promised them. Or Disney World, whatever that looks like. Wow, that's amazing. And then like if it keeps going like this, what does it look like? Oh, well, like a bigger house, private schools, buying investment properties. That's how Ford goes. So if you just remember the Ford acronym and start with family. People always like to talk about their kids. They always like to talk about them family. So when you say, "How is the family?" then you just open them up. And when you do that, then what happens? They feel relaxed. They feel open. They're talking about what makes them feel good, right? And we have then succeeded in communicating with them at an emotional level. And when we're talking about someone's family and they're telling us about their family and we're agreeing and, wow, that's amazing. We are instilling trust in them. That's what the Ford can do. Having Ford conversations help instill connection, trust at an emotional level. So by the time we get to real estate, it's an open conversation. Ford questions help break down barriers so people can be who they are and relax. Because typically, when we get interrupted in our day with a phone call, our defenses are up. They just are. And we know that because there's so many spam calls out there. I get so tired of people calling. I actually talked to the person yesterday and said, please tell me, what is it? I am the business owner. What do you want? What are you selling? All right. So where people are just like us. So oftentimes we have to put ourselves and put the hat on of the client and say they are just like us. So what matters to them is typically what matters to us. How do I have those kind of communications with them? Open-ended Ford questions, right? Closed-ended questions are, can I come over at 5 o'clock tomorrow? No. That's a closed-ended question. Something that can have a yes or no response. Open-ended questions are my calendar's pretty open. What's a good day this week for us to meet? Right? That's open-ended. Answer type, more than a single word answer. Response type, own knowledge, feelings. Information provided, deeper insight. Anytime we ask an open-ended question, we're going to get a deeper response. Answer freedom, free form answer, primary use to invite information. Always know what kind of questions you're asking and when is it time for an open-ended question and when is it time for a closed-ended question? Because if you ask a closed-ended question too early on in the conversation, it kind of bites the flow and then you don't know where to go from that. Because when we are making outreach calls and connections, we want to create a flow, right? We want to create a back and forth in the communication. And it's important that the person that we're reaching out to has an opportunity to open up and speak. And then once we can kind of establish an altitude of comfort, and then the communication and conversation can just kind of exist at a certain level. But we have to get it there first. And oftentimes when we're, making phone calls, we don't have a lot of time to engage someone before they make a decision as to whether or not they're going to hang up or continue the call. So what we say in that first 30 seconds is pretty important. Just like a song, right? First 10 seconds, first 5 seconds of a song, it's got to hook you. Otherwise, next. All right. Activity role play. Um, Gosh, if we were in a class setting, we'd role play. Um, I did I wish I almost had a little time here. I have access to an AI role play component that's pretty cool. And you can actually, use AI to role play and say, hey, I'm a new agent and I'm holding my first open house. Um, role play with me to ask the right questions to, close for an appointment. And you could role play with chat. And there's role play groups out there on Facebook. There's role play groups all over. I'm going to make sure that I include with the link of information that I send out to Alana that there is a couple of pages on role play groups through the Pivot Shift group. But again, if you go to Pivot Shift and Facebook and join that group, in the files section, there's information on role play groups that take place at all three different time zones. So you want to be a part, Tiara. You do role play every day. Awesome. The call is from the settlement attorney. No, the title rep. California is a title state. So I don't know how it works in states where like go to the closing table and there's actually attorneys there. But that might be a good place to start. Or ask your team leader, where do I get a farm list? And they'll tell you. But I don't know if it's a settlement attorney. Okay, awesome. All right, guys. Yeah, we didn't even get to AI. Yeah, I'm gonna include some stuff for you guys for AI. I wish I had another half an hour to get into this. But these are the slides that you see here regarding prompts. Throw these prompts into ChatGPT and play around with it. If you don't, I don't know where you are with AI and ChatGPT or Claude. If you're on the sidelines and you haven't started, please um, go get a paid account and start getting involved with some of these um, prompts and learning how chat works, how large language model works. Keller Williams has an AI playbook that's got a lot of good information in there. They actually have an AI course. Um, Patrick Ferry is doing a road show right now through Keller Williams. And let me see if I can actually find that link. If I can find that link, I'm going to drop it in the chat for you guys.
Hey, Anthony.
Boom, here it is. All right. Let's see here. So he is going to every region. Let's see. Here we go. It's called the Digital Roadshow. So grab that link, check your region, and then you guys can figure out what does that look like. But he's an awesome guy. It's Tom Ferry's brother. Guy's a genius. Really knows a lot about AI, and you know, you don't want to get left behind on the AI train because it's moving fast. If you're playing around with it or you're into it, great. You're where you want to be. If you're not, now is the time. Now is the time. Figure out what it can start doing for you. And then how can I do what I'm doing through AI? Right? Because it becomes a thought partner. It can help you think, it can help you strategize, it can do mind-blowing things that it just like I couldn't live without it, to be honest with you. This is some of the things that it can do.
Um,
AI can do 80%, right, of the activities that we seek to leverage off. AI can handle that for us. So we can stay focused on our 20%. And some compliance tips connecting with your network. Win the morning, win the day, right? What we do, how we wake up in the morning, the energy that we create, the intention that we call forth in the early hours is determining whether or not we win. And by committing to the main activities of lead generation before noon, we win the day. When we take the most important activity, when we execute on our 20% before noon, we have won the morning and we have won the day, even if the afternoon falls apart. What happens is that most people wait until the afternoon and then the afternoon starts to fall apart. And then they say, well, I'll just get to lead generation tomorrow. And they never get to it. Energy plan. Meditate and pray. We need spiritual energy. We have to exercise and eat for physical energy. Mo Anderson says you should get 7 hugs a day for emotional energy. Plan your calendar, mental energy, lead generate business energy, because this all takes energy. It takes energy to live a life that's worth living. It takes energy to own a business that's worth owning. And if you don't have the right energy because you're out of shape or you eat bad or you just don't, you're up late or you drink too much or whatever that looks like, you got to be in alignment with your body because we ask everything of it and then we only get one and it goes everywhere with us. And once the body fails, that's it. It's not like a car. You can't just go get a new one or take it to the repair shop. So having the right energy is really, really important, guys.
hey, Anthony, I
All
just
right.
I just
We're at
put up that
8:03. This is all just closing. Yeah. All right, guys. Again, if you didn't give a chance to give me an evaluation last night, I appreciate you scanning the QR code and giving me one tonight. And I'm going to put my information in here again. And if you guys want to connect on social media, please feel free to do so. If you do connect with me on social media, I will get you what I'm promising to get you that much faster. And we can be friends. And if you guys ever have any outbound referrals to the Los Angeles area, you know someone who you can refer that business to. And it looks like Michael just dropped a nice prompt in the chat for you to type into chat. There you go. It will create a personal operating manual. Awesome. Thank you, Michael. I'm going to grab that myself.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me.
I can.
Okay, at Keller Williams, that's one of the things that they had me do, and it goes through and asks you question by question.
Okay.
And then really tells you exactly how to plan your day, what you need to stop doing that's going to throw you off track.
Yeah, and that's awesome that you said that, because so much about success is what do we need to stop doing, right? It's about doing less and getting off your plate the things that aren't serving you. So that is great. And going through a process like this will start to identify things in your life, the patterns in your life that aren't serving you. That's what like ChatGPT can help you out. And we carry these patterns throughout our lives. And a lot of times we've been having them for 20, 30, 40 years. And when we can identify them, then we can start correcting them. But until we identify them and know what they are, they kind of just live in a blind spot and they're just constantly impacting us in ways that don't serve us. So thank you for dropping that and success with that, guys. All right. That's all we got for tonight. And as always, I'm going to play us out because that's what I do. And I appreciate you guys being here and look forward to seeing you around the halls or at family reunion or somewhere at a nearby Keller Williams or KW event. Let's see here. All right.
till it's